Commander Vexthor had seen death in 1,000 forms. The Krillian had fought across 17 star systems, earned medals that covered half his chitinous chestplate, and survived battles that would have broken lesser species. Yet as he sat across from the two humans in the dimly lit conference room of the Galactic Coalition headquarters, his secondary hearts beat with something he rarely felt: fear. The girl Elsa appeared no older than 20 standard cycles. Her blonde hair was tied back in a simple ponytail, and she wore the standard-issue gray jumpsuit of a Coalition engineer. She smiled pleasantly while reviewing a datapad, occasionally making notes with movements so casual they seemed almost insulting given the gravity of their discussion. Beside her sat Zia, a young man with dark hair and an easy demeanor that belied his military rank. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, watching Vexthor with eyes that held far too much calculation for someone so young. "Commander," Elsa began, her voice sweet and professional, "we've reviewed your concerns about deploying human tactical units to the Andromedas front. You called this meeting to—" what was the phrase? "Warn us about ourselves?" Vexthor's mandibles clicked nervously. "You misunderstand, Engineer Petrov. I do not question human capabilities. I question human restraint." Zia straightened slightly. "That's rich coming from the butcher of Kepler 442. The Krillian's compound eyes flashed. "That title was earned defending my homeworld from extinction. I did what was necessary. But humans—" he paused, searching for words. "Humans do not fight for necessity. You fight because you cannot help yourselves." Elsa set down her datapad. "Commander, perhaps you should explain exactly what frightens you about us. Because from where I'm sitting, you've got 6 limbs, an exoskeleton that can deflect plasma rounds, and you're twice my size." Vexthor stood, his full 3-meter height casting a shadow across the table. "You want to know what terrifies me? 3 months ago, I watched your species defend Station Kepler 88 against a Zathan hive fleet. Do you know what the Zathan are, Engineer Petrov? Insectoid collective intelligence, extremely aggressive, no concept of surrender or negotiation," Elsa recited. "I've read the briefings. Then you know they are considered the galaxy's apex predator. They have wiped out entire civilizations. When they came to Kepler 88, every species retreated to the evacuation ships. Every species except one." Vexthor's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "The humans stayed. 267 humans armed with kinetic weapons and fusion charges that any other species would consider primitive." Zia's expression didn't change. "We held the station." "You did more than hold it," Vexthor said. "You turned it into a graveyard. When reinforcements arrived, we found Zathan warrior drones, creatures that have terrified the galaxy for 10,000 years, hanging from the corridors. Their own limbs had been fashioned into trophies, spray-painted messages on the walls in their own acidic blood." He turned to face them fully. "You turned war into theater, into art." Elsa's smile faded slightly. "We did what we had to do. The Zathan operate on fear and intimidation. We had to make them understand that humans could be scarier. And that is precisely my point." Vexthor's voice rose. "Every other species fights to survive. Humans fight to dominate, to prove something. When my soldiers face certain death, they accept it with honor. When your soldiers face certain death, they laugh. They mock their enemies. They compose songs about it." "The Kepler shanty is pretty catchy," Zia admitted. Vexthor slammed his primary hands on the table. "This is not a joke, Lieutenant Chen. Do you understand what you represent to the rest of the galaxy? For 50,000 years, warfare had rules. Species fought for territory, resources, survival. Then humans joined the coalition, and suddenly war became something else. Something enthusiastic." Elsa leaned forward. "Commander, with respect, you're describing effectiveness. Every species in this coalition was facing extinction before we arrived. The Krillian homeworld was 3 months from falling. Now the front lines have stabilized and we're actually pushing back the Zathan expansion. Because you do not know when to stop." Vexthor's voice cracked. "Last week one frigate, pursued a Zathan dreadnought into an asteroid field. The dreadnought outmassed them 50-1. Any rational species would have broken off. Do you know what the human captain did?" Zia grinned. "The Crazy Ivan maneuver." "Yeah, that was Captain Rodriguez. She flew into the dreadnought's engine wash, used it to slingshot around, and dropped their entire payload of antimatter mines directly into the ship's aft hangar. Lost only 3 crew members. She sacrificed 3 lives for a tactical victory that gained nothing strategic." Vexthor insisted. Except it took one of their command ships offline for 6 months, Elsa countered. And it demonstrated that even our smallest vessels are a threat to their largest. That changes their tactical calculus across the entire theater. Vexthor settled back into his seat, suddenly looking very old despite his alien features. You still do not understand. I am not questioning your effectiveness. I am questioning what happens when the war ends. I have fought alongside Krillians, Zephyrins, Androrians, and dozens of other species. All of us understand that war is a temporary state, a necessary evil to be ended as quickly as possible. He gestured at them both. But humans? I have seen your history files. You ended your last world war and immediately missed it. You created simulation games to relive combat. Your literature celebrates warriors above philosophers. Your children play at war. You are the only species in the known galaxy that had to invent the concept of war crimes, because you kept escalating the horror, even against your own kind. Silence filled the room. Finally, Elsa spoke, her voice quiet and measured. You're right, Commander. War is in our nature in ways that other species might not understand. We evolved as persistence hunters on a death world where everything was trying to kill us. We learned to outlast, to outthink, and to never ever give up. She stood, meeting Vexthor's compound eyes with her own steady gaze. But that same nature is why we'll win this war. The Zathen, the Krillian invaders of your past, every hostile force in this galaxy. They all fight because they believe they'll win. The moment victory becomes uncertain, they recalculate. They withdraw. They sue for peace. Zia rose as well, his casual demeanor replaced by something harder. Humans don't stop when victory becomes uncertain. We stop when the job is done. That's what terrifies you, isn't it, Commander? Not that we're violent. Lots of species are violent. You're afraid because we're relentless. Vexthor looked between them. These two young humans who spoke of galactic warfare with the confidence of ancient conquerors. He thought of the report still flooding in from the front lines. Human Marines charging Zathen positions while singing. Human engineers jury-rigging weapons from broken equipment in ways that violated 3 laws of physics. Human commanders who treated impossible odds as personal challenges. Yes, he said finally. That is what terrifies me. Because when this war ends, and with humans fighting it, it will end, what will you do with that relentlessness? What happens when the galaxy's most dangerous species has nothing left to fight? Elsa's smile returned, but now it carried a hint of something that made Vexthor's secondary heart skip a beat. Then I guess we'll have to find something worth building, Commander. We're just as relentless about that, too. As Vexthor watched the two humans leave the conference room, already discussing deployment schedules and tactical innovations with disturbing enthusiasm, he understood the truth that would shape the galaxy's future. Humanity's enemies should be terrified, but humanity's allies should be equally careful, because the most dangerous thing in the universe wasn't a species that loved war. It was a species that was good at it.